What's the most versatile gaming laptop and has the best price to performance ratio? Well, it depends on your use case, but you gotta take a look at the 150 watt class of gaming laptops because they're so light and sleek while still delivering great performance. And among these laptops, the Legion 7i and 5i just got a pretty solid upgrade. It's not just the new processor and GPU, they really refined a lot of things. So let's take a look at these and their differences. I got my hands on these super early thanks to Lenovo Legion and Intel for sponsoring. One of the main reasons why I think the Legion 7i and 5i hit the sweet spot is that they get the stunning OLED PureSight display from Lenovo without the flagship price tag. Both of these can be spec'd with a 2K OLED display. For the 5i, you get a 165Hz display, while for the 7i display, you can get either 165Hz or 240Hz. In most cases, I think the 165Hz looks perfectly smooth, but if you're really into super competitive games, then the 240Hz might make sense for you. And these laptops are very well geared for this type of game with lots of CPU power. These OLED displays cover the full DCI-P3 color space, so the colors are very vibrant and saturated when the content calls for it. And these displays are 500 nits, which is pretty good for a high refresh rate OLED screen. Even in brightly lit rooms, they're easily visible. But do note that the lower spec of the Legion 5i does still use a 1080p LCD display that's only 300 nits. Okay, and an interesting change is that the displays for both of these became glossy this year compared to matte previously. It's a personal preference which one you like better, but the glossy one does look a bit sharper. However, there is a trade-off because these don't have the best anti-reflection coating. And when I say Lenovo really did try to refine every aspect of the computer, this is what I mean. The keyboard, which is already one of the best on a laptop, is upgraded again. The travel went from 1.5mm to 1.6mm now, which doesn't sound like the biggest deal, and it isn't, but the feel of it did improve. Just listen to them side by side. When the old one bottoms out, it makes this clacky sound, whereas the new one makes a more satisfying thunk. And it's super tactile. You have a very clean snap at the top of the travel. And it still has the comfortable 0.3mm dish. Both the Legion 7i and 5i have this new keyboard, but where the Legion 7i gets a little extra feature is the per key RGB. The 5i just gets a 24-zone RGB. Also, check out the O key. It's now the Legion logo. That's kind of cute. And this incremental improvement also applies to the webcam. It's now 5 megapixels on the 7i, and it comes with a physical shutter. You also have an IR camera on the side for Windows Hello, and it's very convenient. There are also some physical changes. The new 7i no longer has any branding on the keyboard deck or the bottom of the screen. I like this cleaner look. And on the top of the lid, they centered both the Lenovo and Legion logos. The 5i got the same changes, but it also looks like it got a new hinge, which does feel a bit smoother. Now, after all of those upgrades, you might find it weird that the battery capacity actually became smaller in the Legion 7i. It went from 99.99 watt-hours to just 84 watt-hours now. I guess that's what it takes to make the laptop 7% lighter and 10% slimmer, and you can feel the weight difference. Now the Legion 7i is only about 0.7 inches at its thickest part and 4.4 pounds. I think this decision is not that crazy considering when you're actively gaming, you probably have it plugged in to take full advantage of the performance. And when you're unplugged, the new processor is a lot more efficient, so 84 watt-hours is still enough to get you through a couple of classes with no problems. But in terms of design, I would say the Legion 5i got an even bigger upgrade. It went from a 16-inch screen to a 15-inch one this generation, and this is partially why it's able to be 13% thinner and lighter while maintaining the same 80 watt-hour battery size. Now the Legion 5i weighs just about 4.1 pounds and is 0.84 inches at its thickest. It does feel a lot less bulky and is almost as sleek as the 7i. It's even ahead of the 7i in terms of the ports. The 5i has an extra Ethernet port and USB-A port. Now, the port selection on the Legion 7i is definitely good enough with 2 USB-C, one of them is Thunderbolt 4, 2 USB-A, and HDMI 2.1. But it's a shame that there's no more USB-C port on the right-hand side, and the ports on the back used to have lit-up labels, but now they're gone. For a gaming laptop, being thinner and lighter always raises a concern of thermal and noise. Well, I can confidently say that these are definitely quieter laptops than before. They claim that the 7i is about 7 decibels quieter, and also by ear, it does sound different. The noise is like a deeper tone and does sound less annoying. Both of these laptops are now utilizing the Cold Front Hypertech, which is a cooling strategy that pushes all of the hot air out of the back of the laptop. It makes a lot of sense given that you're going to have your mouse on the side, so it's a lot more comfortable not having hot air blowing on your hand. When it comes to the performance, this is a great year to upgrade since there's both a new CPU and GPU GPU. So on both devices, you can get up to a 5070 GPU. And unlike its higher tier GPUs, the 5070 is not nearly as power hungry. It puts out pretty good performance while using much less power than the 5080 laptops. I think this is a pretty big reason why these laptops can have such sleek profile and are not that loud even when gaming. And there's also the 5060, which has the same amount of VRAM as the 5070 at 8 GB, but is around 12 to 15% slower. Moving to the CPU, which is pretty interesting here. On both of these laptops, you can get the Intel Core Ultra 9 275HX. This is a super powerful 24-core processor that's also used in much bigger and more expensive gaming laptops, and it beats just about all the other laptop processors except the 285HX. The Core Ultra 9 275HX and 5070 GPU combo would be particularly good for those 1080p competitive games running at super high refresh rate. The Legion 5i that I have here has the Intel Core Ultra 7 255HX, which is still very solid, having 20 cores. And the new Ultra series processor is a lot more efficient. The battery life here isn't gonna match those of the Thin and Lights, but it's not bad for just doing some simple tasks, and it doesn't get too hot or loud. Plus, the built-in GPU can take over from the NVIDIA GPU to give you even more battery life. To manage all of the hardware, Lenovo put out a new software that they call Legion Space. It not only lets you control all of the hardware settings, but also manages your games. You can even record some gaming clips with it too. And lastly, both the Legion 7i and 5i have upgradable SSD and RAM, which is great to see. So overall, I think it's a really solid upgrade for both the Legion 7i and 5i. I love the design changes, making both of these thinner and lighter. These are definitely super versatile laptops that won't feel like a big rock in your backpack. If you're looking for a laptop that you can bring around to work or school, but also is great for gaming, then definitely check out these options. I'll have the links down below, and thanks for watching.